Hello everyone, I want to give you this helper video for Project 2. I think we can get it all done in one video here, so let's begin. What I want to talk about is that I give you a PDF file for Project 2. There's actually 2 chapters involved. You're not going to have a fully functional CRUD capable mobile application, a database driven with total CRUD functionality, but you will have the rudiments for learning database-driven mobile application development in Android. Now, what I'll provide for you is a PDF file that will give you the full CRUD functionality, but I'm not requiring that for this project. It's a substantial bit of code, and so we're going to take it in chunks. The first portion is going to show you how to actually insert data into a database. So let's begin. Okay, first thing here, you'll notice that I already have an application here. This application is called Task List, and this is the code that I'm going to use from. I created this. I made changes to the PDF file that I gave to you. There's actually some errors in that PDF file that I found, and I'm going to show what those errors are. Although you should have been able to figure them out based upon the naming convention, the class naming convention, and method naming convention that they use in Java. So based upon the method names, you should be able to backward engineer the data members, because remember that particularly in Java Bean technology, which is a special type of POJO, called POJO, or a plain old Java object is a Java Bean. The naming convention is that the variable names are in camel case, and then the ensuing methods, the get and set, is all lowercase, and then the method names themselves after get and set are in Pascal case. All right, gang, let's create this new project. So this is my project that you're seeing right here. Also, we're going to be working with this PDF file that I provided for you. So let's begin with the project first, because it's going to take a while to build. So we're going to say File, New, Project. And we're going to call this Task List 2, because I already have a task list, and you would just call it Task List. But since you don't have one, I'm assuming you don't have one anyway, you can call it Task List, but I have to name mine Task List 2 because, again, I already have a project called Task List. This is going to just choose a default here. Keep it as that. Don't make any changes here. Click Next. Click the empty activity module there. And let's call this Task List using Pascal case. So the T and the L are capitalized. Task List, no spaces in between. Remember, that's the naming convention for an activity. In the comparable layout of the XML file, so this is going to be the class. The comparable XML file automatically is generated based upon the activity name in the class. So let's click Finish here. Now, while that's building here, we're going to see our generated project here in a second. Let's take a look at the PDF file. PDF file here. I'm going to go right directly to page 405, and you'll see that the package name that I have highlighted right here, this package name, is going to be different from what you have. So let me just highlight that a little bit better. This package name should be different. That's the only thing. The rest of this code on this page should be the same. So notice here that my package name here is package com.example.mjoat.tasklist2, and yours would be com.example.probably FSUID, so com.example.fsuid.tasklist semicolon. Okay, that would be the only difference here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal from some existing code that I have, and we'll use that. But first what we need to do is create, as per page 405, a class called list. So what we're going to do first is drill down. Make sure you go to app, go to Java. I'll open some of this other stuff here too. You want to make sure manifest is open so you can see your Android manifest.xml file. We're not using that right now, but we will in a second. I'll show that. Your layout, there's the automatically generated activity, the XML file. Values, you can have a colors.xml if you use that. Our strings we're going to be using, and the styles.xml. First is we're going to create a class called list. So there's our task list that we created from the beginning, but we're going to create some more classes here and put some code associated with it. So right-click on the package name com.example.yourfsuid.tasklist. Right-click on this first one. There's three here, right? There's three of these packages. I want to right-click on the first one, and we're going to say New Java Class, and we're going to name this List, L-I-S-T, just like the PDF file to the right here. Okay? So I'm going to, don't touch anything else here, just keep the default, just name this List, L-I-S-T, click OK. There you see we have a generated Java file. No more activities were added, just wanted a Java class. And what we're going to do is I'm going to use some existing code that I have here. This is not changing. This is going to be exactly like the PDF file. Okay? So it's going to be exactly like this. I'll make it a little bit larger so you can see the code. There you go. That's that. Next, what we need to do is go to the next page where we're going to create the next two pages, actually. And I have some notes over here as well. First of all, they said in the book that it's overridden. If you go back here to the page 404, it talks about how the set completed date method is overridden. Notice that there is no set completed date. They don't have an associated data member here. The data member is set completed, and that's incorrect. And we're going to change that. I'm going to show you this in the code that I'm going to provide for you here. Trying to get this highlighted. There it is, right there. That's incorrect. And now let me show you. First of all, we're going to have to create another class. So here is the code for the list class. Again, make sure that you're using your package name, not my package name. Okay, it won't work. So just leave that as is when you create your class. We're going to have another class here, and we're going to name this the same name as page 406, 407. So this package, or this class, I should say, is going to be task. All right. So I'm going to right-click on here, new Java class called task. Okay. Don't touch any default values. Leave them the same. Click OK. And here, I'm going to show you what code you need for the task class. And that is this right here. Okay, I'm going to copy this, put it over here. Again, make sure that you're using your package name. I'll make that a little bit larger for you. Should be able to see everything there. Okay, should be able to see everything there. So there's your package name. Don't take mine. Don't do mine. Let's go through this one by one. Notice again, immediately there's a difference in the there's a difference here in the data member name. So the data member name is not completed, but completed date in camel case. And by the way, that's going to have to change all throughout the code of that page. Like there needs to be completed date, here needs to be completed date. Okay, so in this PDF file, it's for the most part it's correct, and I'm going to leave it. I'm going to show this code as it exactly is here, but there are some changes, and that change for one is completed date. So take a look here. That's so the data members. We have some public static members as well too. Boolean values true and false, set to 1 and 0 respectively. We have a default constructor. Notice completed. It's not completed, but completed date. We have a constructor that accepts parameters right here. Again, make sure that wherever you have completed in this PDF file, now I can't say wherever you have it, but for the most part, like for instance, here, the parameters, one of the parameters is string completed. Now that's fine. This part of it is fine right here. It's this part that's incorrect. Right there. So we take a look at my code. Again, just follow the code. So, default constructor, constructor with parameters, make sure the code looks exactly as is. Another constructor with parameters. And then we have our getters and setters. And that's all the code right here. Remember, gang, be careful of, for the most part, this is correct. But make sure the code matches. It's here when you get the completed in the PDF file. It's not completed, but it's completed date. Okay? So make sure that that matches exactly. Here are all the getters and setters that you need. Also, there are some modifications in the parameter list as well too. Like for instance, set list ID. Set list ID. In the PDF file, it shows it as an int, and it really should be a long, not an int. Okay. So again, if you just copy this code as is, exactly as is, you should be fine. One more quick review. So here are the data. Here's the class task. Here are the data members, private. Here are the static data members. Default constructor, parameterized constructor, another parameterized constructor, and the getters and setters. Okay, so that's the third class. Now, if you continue on, the class, the database class that we need, we're going to have to make one for that as well too, and that's on page 409. Again, on 409, and then inclusive 411. And finally 413. So what we're going to be doing here is one file. It's a class. We're going to create a class, task list DB. Okay, we'll do that in a second. Starts at 409. Gives you some documentation. We're going to have to include 411, more documentation, and then 413. And you can see this is where the class actually stops right here. Okay, so let's do that right now. I'm going to right-click on here, New, Java Class. I'm going to call this Task, capital T, List, capital L, D, capital DB. So Task List DB, the T is capitalized, the L is capitalized, and both D and B are capitalized. Don't change any of the default values here. Click OK. And let me show you the code here. So, what we're going to do, something else is a little bit different as well too. And I'll show you that. Let me copy the code right here. Okay, so here's my import statements. I'll make this a little bit larger for you. Now, in the PDF, it shows that you would import the class cursory factory. I'm sorry, cursor factory. You don't need that. All you need is the SQLite database import. In other words, this one right here. Okay? So, here's the code. Just follow the code again. Here's the code. Here are the correct import statements, including the util.log, so you can actually print your any errors or any display if you want to. You can print it to the log view if you wanted to. But we're going to show it to the actual Android emulator. And so here are the import statements. And then here is the beginning of the class, right here, TaskListDB. And then here we have all our constants. Here's the database constants for the database name and version. And in here, it's pretty much the same as per pages 409, 411, and 413. Now, I'm just going to go through this, so you can copy all the code here up to the column for hidden. Make sure that you include your numbers as well too for that. So the names of the columns correspond to the numbers of the columns. Notice here is the database and the version, and here is the code for the list table. Okay, and then here is the code for the task table. Here are your drop and create and drop statements. Create statements are first for the list table, and then the task table, and then the drop statements. So that way, notice it says drop if exists rather than just drop table. Drop if exists will give you a warning rather than an error. By the way, here is what's known as an inner class. Notice we got a class here. This is actually a class within a class, and we call this an inner class. Okay, so make sure that you have that. Talk a little bit more about that in class. And notice because we need that cursory factory class, we're actually doing a fully qualified. This is different than your PDF file as well too. So make sure that you're actually doing a fully qualified call using the SQLite database cursory factory. In the PDF file, all it shows is this. But we're not using that in import statement. We're just calling SQLite database, and now what we have to do is call it explicitly because we didn't include it in our import statement. All we included was SQLite database. So line 75, the cursory factory class has to be called with a fully qualified name using the SQLite database class first, dot cursory factory. Okay, so make sure that this inner class is like this. Make sure our onCreate statement is like this. Okay, you'll see that here in a second. Notice our on upgrade method. And your closing parenthesis for the class. So the closing parenthesis. Here's our, again, make sure you got the two methods here on create, and then upgrade, and then our closing parenthesis. There's two of them. Make sure you get both of these. Then here's our database and database helper objects: SQLite database DB, DB helper variables. They're both private data members. Here's our constructor. Here's our private methods. And then we want to close the database. So we're going to have a close DB method as well too. Also, we have other public methods. This is to create our array list using a cursor. So all this goes here. This method is called lists. Well, here actually is get list. This method right here. So, and then we're instantiating an array list, and the object variable is lists, lists. But this method is actually called get lists. Okay, and it's all associated here. By the way, when we're returning this list, remember that all calling environments must agree with their signatures or their method headers and type, order, and number. So when we are creating this method called getLists, it must return an array list. Otherwise, you're going to get an error. So here is the definition of this. Remember, there's two types of methods and two types of functions: value returning and non-value returning. If it's a non-value returning method or function, it's going to have a void keyword. This is a value returning method, and we're going to return an array list. And there's our method, all the code for the method. Here's another one. So that's get lists, plural. And then here is singular get list. And we're going to use a where clause with this. So here's our method get list, and it is going to return a list. That's the code for that. Here's another one that's comparable. Now this was in your PDF file. So you had, for tasks, you had get tasks and set task, and when I'm on page 417. But what I included in this code, what you didn't have in a PDF, is the lists. So this code right here was not included in the PDF file. None of this code was included. What you had instead was for tasks. You had your get tasks, all the tasks, and then you had individually get task. So let me just show that in one fell swoop if I can. Here is the get tasks method, and here is the get task method. So you can see both of them right here. There's one, and here's the second. The singular get task based upon a where condition. That where condition would be the ID for that task or for the list. Remember, the primary keys are both a type of integer, and that's how we get the individual task or the individual list. Here is another method called get task from cursor. Here's the code for that. Notice it's going to try to get all of the columns for the task, the ID, the task list ID, which is the primary key, the foreign key, the list ID, task name, no, it's completed, date, or if it was completed or not, and then the hidden field. Remember, the hidden field was used so that we can hide rather than actually delete. If you looked in the PDF file, the author chose not to delete the task, but keep them more, or the list, but keep them for historical basis. So they're not deleting them, but actually hiding them. So this is insert task. Here is update task. Again, this is all from the task list db.java file. This is delete task, and we're done with the entire class right here. Okay, so one last show of it. Import statements, beginning of class, database constants, table constants for the list table, table constants for the task table, create and drop statements, inner class, here's our inner class, and by the way, in that inner class, all of these methods are associated with the DB helper inner class, because this class is inside of another class. So DB helper is inside of the task list DB class. That's why we call this an inner class. So here is the beginning of our inner class. Oh, where is it? Right. There it is, right there. Here's the beginning of our inner class. There is the parameterized constructor right here. On create method. On upgrade method, when the database is being upgraded. There's the database helper objects, DB and DB helper. The constructor, task list. By the way, this is the end. This is the end of the inner class right here. That's the end of the inner class. And then here we're going back to the database and database helper objects. So DB, DB helper. Here's a constructor for our outer class. You could see that the constructor always takes the name of the class itself. The class name is TaskListDB. So this is the constructor for that. This is the constructor for the inner class. This class is called DB helper. There's the parameterized constructor for the inner class. And then on line 76 is a call to the superclass. The superclass here would be the task list, right? The outer class. Okay, and goes back to our constructor for the task list DB. Here's our private methods and the method to close the DB. So open readable DB, open writable DB, and close DB. Here's our public methods. The first one is for called get lists, plural, individual, get lists, and then a comparable one for the tasks. Get tasks. That's the end of that. And then singular, get task. Here's a method called get task from cursor. We're actually going to get all the columns for the task. and the data. Here we're going to insert a task. Again, this functionality you won't see until the next PDF file that I provide for you. But that's not required for this project. That'll be something you could do on your own. And finally, delete task. And the end of this class. And the outer class is public class DB. Alright, gang, so that takes us all the way to page 419. My apologies. That takes us all the way to, as you can see here, row count. That takes us all the way to page 421. So from pages 409 to pages 421. No. Pages 409 to page 423, this delete task, right here, pages 409 to 423 is the end of the code for the task list DB file. Okay, task list DB, all that code is from 409 to 423. Now what we need is something to test the database. So to test the database, all we need to do is go to our task list .xml file, and here we have to make some changes here. And what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to create a new text view. Right here, new text view, and put that in here like this. Make it a little bit larger. I actually added some color too, and you could add color like this, make your own color. But I actually added some background color to this, like this. Okay, and the class that we need to modify is actually our first one that came with the program, and that is task list. We have to make a change there to actually make this program work. So the code for that is right here that I'm going to show you. The code for that is this. Paste that. And notice when I pasted it in, it actually asked, or I should say had a prompt for selecting classes to import. I'm going to click OK to that. Now, a couple things. Here are my import statements. I'm going to make this larger so you can see. Notice that I'm importing, again, your package is going to be different, but you should have these import statements here. Here's the beginning of your class definition. I'm going to take these out, but this is for when you will add an app icon. So you'll do this, and you remember how to do that with your previous project. So I'm going to take this out because I don't have an icon in here, in the one that I'm doing for you, but you'll see when I run my application that you'll actually see the icon. So I'm going to take this out to make the code easier to read, and you could put your own icon in there. Here's the beginning of the class. Here is the onCreate method right here. All of this is with the onCreate method. So I'll begin here to show you this. onCreate. We've seen this before. Send content view. R stands for resource. .activity underscore task underscore list. Here's a get the DB and string builder as per the documentation and the PDF file. So what I'm showing you now begins right here to test the DB. And this is all the code that you see right here. Okay? And I'm going to start running it here so we don't waste any time and continue to show you the code. So this is as per, nothing's changed here, but make sure you have the code as per what I'm giving you right now. Okay, so here's to get the DB and string builder objects. Here's to insert a task. Here's to insert a second task, and you have to insert 5, right? Minimum of 5. Here's to update a task, and it's going to update. If the update count is equal to 1, we're going to say task updated. Here we're going to delete one. If its delete count is equal to 1, we'll say task deleted. And then we're going to delete some old tasks here. And again, this may vary depending upon what tasks that you have inserted. It depends on what is in your database. And here we want to display all the tasks. So we're calling that method, remember we created this method, get tasks. And we want to make sure we get the personal table, not the business table. So here's our get all tasks. And then finally, we're going to have this display the string in the text view that we created in our activity list. So in our activity list, we actually have a creating this variable right here called task list view, and that is coming from here. In our task list ID, we actually have a ID for that task view. It's called, in camel case, task list text view. So that's what you need here at the in our code right there. We're pulling that in, and we're going to display our tasks and what happened. So again, when you run this, apart from the color, you're going to see this. Okay? And by the way, every time I run this, it's going to change. So I'll run it again. And you'll see that I have here pay bills, get haircut, take car in for oil change, 4, 6, 8, 10. If I run it again, oops, I ran the wrong one. I was running this, and what I wanted to run was mine. Mine is over here. So I'm going to run mine. And you'll see when I run it that it will keep adding the modified version of it. So take car in for oil change, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. If I run it again, you'll see what happens. Now see, this is task list 2. This is what happens the first time you run it. So that ran. Now this is running mine again. So I'm running both emulators at the same time. I'm running your project and my project, task list. But here's task list. So I'm just going to keep running this one. And you'll see that the values, this is for task list 2. Let me shut this one down. And I just want this code to run mine. And I'm running it again. You'll see that that value keeps incrementing as far as the modified version of that task is. And it'll go for alternating each one exactly as per the code. Now I want to show you one more thing that's not in the book, and that is how to delete that database. And how you can delete the database is like this. We're going to run this one more time. And the reason why it's running so slow right now is because I had two of these running at the same time. I had the task list 2 and I had my task list, and it was causing some problems. So I'm going to let this go for now. The interface should look like similar to your database. Let me close out of this because it's causing a problem with the functionality. I'm going to close out of yours. The code is right though. The code is correct. I'm just going to keep mine open. And there it is. Notice it's now 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So it's going to keep going like this. And this should run faster. I'm going to show this one last time. This should run faster because I closed out the other one, the demonstration one. You should see now 18. Now how you change that, notice it's pulling up faster. How you can delete that is, and this doesn't say it in a book, but this is how you delete it. Go to Tools, go to Android, go to Android Device Monitor. It says following debug sessions will be closed. App, just click yes. Then what it will pull up, it will actually pull up your Android Device Monitor. What we want to do is go into the File Explorer. Okay, we're going to go into the File Explorer, and that should be pulling up here shortly. I got multiple programs running, and that's why it's taking so long. But the File Explorer should be, there it is right there. This will pop up, and you want to go to the File Explorer, go to here where it says Data, click on the tree there, go to the second subdirectory called Data, so it's Data, and then what you want to do is open this up a bit so you can see the names of each one of these packages. And what we want to do is go to Task List. Now notice there's already a Task List 2 because I created that, right? That's yours. But I'm going to go to this Task List, mine, and if I go to Databases, remember that database is actually right here. Task List DB. Remember we created a database here using this constant. Let me make that a little bit larger. And so you'll see that it's placed here inside of your File Explorer. Now if I want to get rid of all of these inserts here, what I could do is just delete this database, click on it, go to the top here where this red dash is. You can see the that little, when I hover over it says delete this selection. So you want to click on that DB. The journal, by the way, is for don't delete that journal. The journal, when I click on the DB, it'll automatically be gone. The journal will stay there, but it's only used for transactions. So it's the DB that you want to use for other applications or give to clients or someone else who wants to see your particular task list. That's the actual DB, not the journal. The journal is for transactions only. Click in the top right corner, click that red dash to delete it. You'll see that it will be deleted. It may take a couple seconds. Notice it's gone. Then what I want to do, the journal's still there, but that'll be gone as well too because it's associated with that particular DB. I'm going to click Exit, and I'm going to close out of this. Notice it has pay bills, get haircut. We put that in, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inserts here. I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to run it for the first time with that new refreshed DB. So I'm going to click on here, and you'll see that with the DB deleted, and that's how you delete it, with the DB deleted, you'll see that now you can start over in your process of testing. So I'm just going to show this and then end the video. That's all you need for this particular project. The only other thing here, it gives you some information on how you can use work with the database files. And there is a in the pages 428 and 429, you can actually get this application for, it's called Downloading the DB Browser for SQLite. And that's a really effective tool for using databases. On page 428, 429, and then 430 is really just giving you a perspective of the entire application itself, including bottom of page 430, indicating that although you learned how to work with SQLite database in this chapter, you haven't yet learned how to display the data in a user interface. And that would be the next chapter. And I'm going to give you that in a PDF file, and you can finish this project up so you actually have total CRUD functionality. Gang, this is what it should look like when you get rid of that DB. So if you keep testing it and you want to get rid of the data, just delete the data the way I demonstrated here. All right, you guys. See you all in class.